It's
Hey.
Bob.
I love our intro. I really do. What's up, God Squad? Squad. Dylan, neighbor Cruz. What's going on tonight? How you doing?
It was a long day. Long day watching the Jack Smith testimony before the Judiciary Committee. So we'll jump into that a little bit uh, later. And it's we got Snowmageddon coming. So
Yes.
uh, they're predicting up to 15 inches of snow where I'm at. Um,
Wow.
yeah, I'm not thrilled.
Hey,
And
Matt. Matt DeStefano is in the building. Boop, boop, boop. What's up, Matt? Yeah, I don't know. South Carolina is supposed to get hit pretty good too, from what I hear. I don't know. Sometimes they say that and it's like a sprinkle or just
yeah,
really cold. So Greenville's in a really strange spot where a lot of things skip over this place, but when it does hit, it really hits pretty hard.
yeah, I'm not looking forward to it. I already had to clean snow 3 times in the last week, so you know
Wow.
I'm over it. And now we're gonna get dumped on. Um,
Yes. Hey,
but
Judy. Thank y'all for
that,
tuning in. But there's a lot going on. And we're not going to belabor the time because we got a lot to cover, don't we? You said you spent the day watching. I want to know what happened today with that. I know it had to be riveting. I was so busy today I could not tune in. But I
yeah,
know one thing I do know is he is gangster. He ain't scared of them motherfuckers.
no, and at one point he sat there and looked right at everybody and said, "Look, Donald Trump is trying to do these things to intimidate me. I
Mhm.
will not be intimidated."
He don't
I
care
mean,
about
he zero fucks to give, Mr.
that.
Jack Smith. And
I love it.
the thing that struck me was a his composure under pressure, because the Republican playbook today, it seemed like they all got together and like, this is what we're going to do.
Hmm.
We're going to bring up stuff that's not relevant to the thing and try to discredit him because he lost some cases one time, or bringing up stuff like, how long have you known this guy, and like to try to intimate that he didn't have his job because of his credentials but because of cronyism or something like that.
I know they don't want to talk about that up under the Trump
I mean,
administration.
come on. The man has tried war crimes internationally and whatnot. Then it was ask a flurry of questions really fast, and then when he tried to answer them, they just cut him off. Especially if he started to say stuff that they did not like,
It's just a
right?
show.
Um, and they were clearly trying to get sound bites for like Fox News and One American News Network and Newsmax and stuff like that. That was the whole Republican playbook and the grandstanding. And Jim Jordan, who is a loathsome human being, not just because he's a Trump sycophant, but because of everything that happened at Ohio State with the
Hmm.
wrestling team. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, just go look up Jim Jordan and spell it Gym Jordan, and you'll come up with some stuff. But Jordan inexplicably is the lead person on the House Judiciary Committee. Didn't pass the bar. Not an actual lawyer, right? And he made an ass of himself pretty much all day. But what the Democrats did was try to allow Smith to talk about the things that he could legally talk about in terms of
Hmm.
evidence
Hmm.
about January 6th and the and Trump's intentional and deliberate illegal actions to commit a conspiracy to overthrow the election results. And you still had those clowns on the Republican side, like Chip Roy and uh, some guy named Jeff Van Ryn. I don't know. I'd never even. some dude named Kylie from California, who was one of Jamie Raskin's students in law school, and Raskin called him out today
Really?
because, oh yeah, this unctuous little twerp was he was one of the worst ones.
Just obnoxious. I'm gonna have to go back and watch.
Just so obnoxious and wouldn't let Smith respond, and when he did, he twisted his words and all that kind of stuff. But the Democrats did mostly a pretty good job. Sometimes they grandstanded too, which was kind of annoying. It's like, okay, get to the part where you're letting the man lay out the evidence, right? And then at one point, Troy Nels from Texas, who is also a reprehensible human being, intentionally goaded the police officers, including Michael Fanone, who were in the crowd.
Yeah, you said something about that man's kids.
No, I'm talking about Representative Nels, not Ivan Ranklin, the Russian asset dude. This was during the actual testimony. Nels went off on a tangent saying that it was the DC police and the Capitol Police's fault what happened that day. And Michael Fanone did one of those, fuck yourself. Like he said it. It was loud and clear. He coughed and said, go fuck yourself. And then at one point, there's a picture of Fanone just shooting the bird to Michael Nels. And like, just, he was not having it. Fanone was in the hospital with multiple injuries that were very dangerous injuries. And the gaslighting from the GOP today was off the flipping charts. But the funny thing was, right at the end, Jamie Raskin said, hey, look, this order from Judge Aileen Cannon, that Trump sycophant who has no experience being a judge, and she was only appointed because she's a Trumper, she put a gag order essentially on some stuff, particularly related to the classified documents case. Well, that order ends in February. And right at the end, Jamie Raskin was like, guess what we're going to do? Because as the minority party, we can call a witness as soon as that thing's over. We're calling Mr. Smith back to talk about the documents case. And Moskowitz from Florida. Now, I don't always like him, but today
he's pretty snarky. He's pretty snarky.
He was snarky as hell today, and he had like 4 pages of names and receipts of Republicans weaponizing the justice system against their opponents. Because that was their whole deal. This was a political hit job. There was no, they couldn't argue with the facts. They just kept on harping about this is a political hit job and all that stuff. And I got to tell you, man, Jack Smith, he kept his composure while they disparaged him, while they called him a hypocrite and a liar and all. I mean, he just sat there. And then when it was his turn to talk, when the Republicans actually let him talk, it was clear to anybody who's not MAGA, or it should have been clear.
Yeah, that MAGA don't hear nor see.
That no, they see no evil, hear no evils, whatnot. That Jack Smith was highly credible, and that, as he said, I believe that I could have proved beyond any reasonable doubt Donald Trump's guilt in inciting and trying to overturn, inciting the riot. He refused to call it an insurrection, but he did say that Donald Trump incited the violence on January 6th, and that he believes that he could have convicted him in a court of law. And that's the key takeaway.
Right mind believes that he could have.
Yeah. And the other thing that the Republicans kept doing was they kept trying to pretend that the January 6th committee's hearings were also a political hit job, despite the fact that two of the people on that, and not just 2 Republicans, one of whom was Liz Cheney, a person so vile that she stood in front of a big crowd of people and said they're aborting babies at 9 months old. And she voted with Trump all the time, and the only thing that stopped her was the insurrection.
Yeah.
That's when she got off the Trump train. Now I'm glad that she found a line that she
Found
wouldn't
Jesus.
cross, but before she found that line,
She was with them.
she was all on board with all that nonsense. So I'm not giving her a redemption arc just because she found that line, but they tried to pretend that that wasn't bipartisan, and that again it was a I watched damn near every minute of that January 6th committee.
Yeah, it was
I
riveting
watched
TV.
every damn
I think even
minute
the
of it.
media was surprised at the viewership of that hearing.
Yeah,
It was rivaling some of the top shows.
yeah,
on TV.
and I have reasonably good critical thinking skills. I'm somewhat intelligent, and I know what I saw that day because on January 6, 2021, we were in quarantine and working from home, and pretty soon my phone was blown up with all my coworkers going, "Oh my God, do you see what's going on?"
And the
I will not
videos
be
and the
gaslit.
recordings and
Yeah,
everything.
the gaslighting was off the charts today. But anybody that knows anything knows that they just made asses of themselves, and that they're just trying to get on. That Fox News probably didn't cover it at all, and they're just going to play
No,
the clips of like
just the
Kylie and
snippets and
Nels
clips
and Chip
and the sound
Roy
bites.
and yeah, all the soundbite stuff. Um, and 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 my boo from Texas, Jasmine Crockett, if you're listening. Oh man, she eviscerated Jim Jordan.
I love
Just
some
go
of
look
her
it
speech.
up. Just go look it up because she she basically eviscerated him for what his actions on the day of January 6th, called him a crybaby, and that kind of thing. So yeah, that was how I spent a lot of my day today, watching this and watching one very professional person be attacked by multiple MAGA
Clowns.
clowns,
Clowns.
and he just his composure under fire, that tells you why he's a really good prosecutor. And he
He's
said at
definitely
the
better. He's definitely a whole heap better than what's his name that did the Russian
oh,
one.
Mueller,
He
yeah,
got on
Robert
my
Mueller.
nerves.
Oh yeah, because he just I can't look political, you
He was
know.
he, he was trying to be too cute with not being political. Just tell the fucking truth. It's not
Yeah,
that hard to do. What are you trying to do? Just tell it like it is.
yeah. And I mean, even Mueller said though that Russia colluded with Trump's to benefit Trump, and Trump
Yeah,
tried to
he
use
did
that
say
collusion to
it, but he
benefit
spent
himself.
way too much time trying not to sound political. It's a political hearing.
Right? Yeah.
It was
This is
a run for office that was going on. You can't not be political about a fucking investigation into a damn running in for office in politics. So
yeah,
he got on my damn nerves. Just tell it, say what happened, say it like it is, and quit trying to sugarcoat the shit. It is
yeah.
what it is, and we still don't know the extent of that. I promise you, it'll come out sometime when my children are in their 40s, like
Right.
JFK files, like all of it'll be released, what they really had about what Russia was doing and what Trump was doing.
The historians of the Trump era are just going to have they're just going to have
The grand
mountains of
time.
stuff to go through.
Yes, our children's children will be learned. This will be college courses, like
Yeah,
in like 20, 30 years. These will be upper level college courses on the psychology of Trumpism and MAGA, and how Trump, literally with his wicked, evil, lying, habitually lying ass, reshaped the Republican Party into his own image
right, right. Well,
for
I
a
wonder how
decade.
many. I wonder how many of the clowns that were performing for Fox News and Newsmax today are self-professed Christians. Because if there were
All of
any,
them. I'm sure it's all of
I didn't
them.
see any evidence that they would be. And I think the last guy that went, Baumgartner, I believe he's from Washington. I don't
Hmm.
know if he's an evangelical, but he said, we don't have cable TV in my house, and we got a bunch of kids, and all that stuff. So, and then he called Jack Smith a hypocrite and all
Yeah,
this,
right.
foolishness.
He sounds like a fundamentalist fuckwittery candidate. Is what he sounds like.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, they all did, but there was a moment when Ivan Rantlin, who is, I believe, Ukrainian or Russian, and he's a MAGA guy, allegedly said something. I'm not going to repeat it on the show because it's alleged. I don't want. I ain't got time for no lawsuits. I got 15 inches of fucking snow coming my way.
Right.
He said some things that were pretty vile
Mm.
to allegedly to Michael Fanone, who was sitting right in front of him, and they had to be broken up. Security came and like pulled them apart, and you could tell that Fanone was about to. I mean, he looked like
Hemorrhage.
he was about to give him his hands. Is what it looked like. Like he's like, motherfucker, keep going. You're gonna catch these hands right here in Congress. And he was wearing a Dropkick Murphys T-shirt, which is a punk band, and on the back it said "Fighting Nazis since like 1996" or something like that. I guess when the band was formed. So
Fanon was, or the other
yeah,
guy?
yeah, no,
Fanon.
Fanone was. So
Mm-hmm.
he did not come to play today,
Mm-hmm.
and I think Jim Jordan knew it, and whatnot. So full kudos to him. Every Republican refused to thank the officers for protecting them that day, as a typical, cowards that they are.
They don't
But yeah,
even want to. They don't even want to admit that they needed protection. Try Jesus, don't try. That's right. That's going to be the answer for this year. Try Jesus.
I'd like to be like Jesus, but catch me on a bad day, my dude. Catch me
Look,
on a
catch me
bad day.
outside. Catch me outside, like that little girl said. Catch me outside. But in breaking news, broken theology, we have some stuff going on in the news. So ICE arrested a 5-year-old. Did that happen? Did that
Yeah,
happen in Minnesota?
yeah,
Federal aid immigration agents detained a 5-year-old and his father. And it's my understanding that they used the child for bait, kind of. Like
yeah.
they had him go
They
knock on the door or
yep,
something.
as
And,
bait to try to get people to come out so that they could then arrest them. And the people that they were going after are here legally following the asylum process.
they don't care. They said they're here. They're gonna go get all the criminals. They're not going on the criminals. If you're, why are you down at Home Depot? Why are you raiding landscaping companies? What are you doing in the restaurants? At the school, literally at the school, arresting students. They don't give a good. If they were focused on criminals, that'd be one thing. They don't give a damn who they take. It don't matter, legal, illegal, showing up at swearing in ceremonies, showing up at the green card appointments, showing up at court hearings that people have to go to. So it's like a catch
Right.
22. If you don't go, you get a warrant. If you go, you get arrested anyway. Even though you're following the process, you get detained and deported anyhow. So it's literally a catch 22 to follow the law, because the law is not following the law. They're not following the law. But apparently they flew the child over 1,000 miles from his home as part of the enforcement operations.
Flew him to Texas. And Greg Bobino
And
had
why would they do that? I don't know. What's the point of that?
Cruelty's the fucking point. But Greg Bobino said that everything that Border Patrol and ICE is doing is ethical and legal. No. Greg Bobino was throwing tear gas at people who were standing back and legally, peacefully protesting.
And I saw a picture too of them, like several agents holding one person down with another one spraying
right into his
face, like on the ground.
Yeah.
There's no way that's necessary. You're holding the person down on the ground. It's like 5 of them, and then one of you is spraying it in his face. What is the point of that except for to try to damn near kill him?
Right. They shot
like literally right here in his face. Like you wanted to get in his eyes, his nose, his mouth. What are you doing? What are you doing? That puts me in the mind of George Floyd. Not quite, but pretty much. What is your end? What is your objective to doing what you're doing right now? What are you trying to do? Because if you're trying to subdue him, he was already subdued. So you must be trying to kill him. What are you trying to do?
Well, they have determined, the coroner in El Paso has determined that the Cuban immigrant that died in ICE custody at Montana East ICE detention facility has now been ruled a homicide. So
Yeah,
again,
and
Greg
they're trying to
Lavina,
deport the two witnesses
right?
that saw what the guards did. They're trying to hurry up and get them out of here so they
Yeah.
don't have any witnesses.
So exactly how is murdering a detainee legal and ethical? How is it legal and
Or
ethical to
moral.
try to, or moral to try to get the witnesses out of the country as quick as possible because they know that this was a murder?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Not only that, and didn't they change the story twice?
yeah,
Didn't
yeah,
they
they
say
changed it,
first he had a medical condition?
right, that he was a medical, and that he was trying to commit suicide, and then there was an altercation over his medicines or something like that.
Yeah.
They
And they didn't change the story. But in the theology part of detaining a 5-year-old, the trauma of that,
right,
um, Jesus in the scripture elevates children as sacred. Wherever you look in the scriptures, actually, pre and post, New Testament, Old Testament, where you look, children are uh, put in the light of something to be protected, something to be cared for, right? Not bargaining chips for police enforcement. Jesus said, "Let the little children come to me," Matthew 19:14. And also in Mark 9:37, he says, "Whoever receives one such child in my name receives me." It doesn't matter where you look in what Trump and this regime and this ICE are doing, you're not going to find God in it. You're
right,
not going to find God in it because you can't function like they're functioning and then look to scripture and find any justification. And speaking of that, there was a church service that was interrupted by protesters,
hmm
and they came. They didn't destroy anything. They didn't harm anyone.
no,
They just came in, and I think they were chanting "ICE out," and they were saying, you basically can't preach the gospel and hate your brother type things. They didn't, to the best of my knowledge, from what I saw from any reporting, they didn't threaten anybody in the church. They
no,
didn't, to the best of my knowledge, attempt to harass anybody in the church as far as like physically or anything like that. No damage to the facility that I know of. Do you?
no. They didn't damage anything. They used their words and their witness. And
Yeah.
the woman that they arrested is a pastor, from what I understand.
Nikema Levy Armstrong.
Yeah, I believe she's an ordained minister.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
uh,
What are your
and
thoughts about, I have mixed thoughts about protesting in church. I don't believe it's sinful. I just have mixed thoughts about the venue of protest. You know, I think it's good. I think it'd be a good, but I also think it could definitely distract from the gospel of Christ, I think, depending on how it's done. What if Muslims had an issue with something Christians were doing and they busted up in your church service and started condemning something that they don't agree with? Would that be okay? So I'm not saying that they're wrong. I just don't know what would have been my method, but it
right,
does force the church to wrestle with who they say they are, who they say they serve, and the God that they claim to worship.
right,
It
right.
does make them, uncomfortable, and I am all for some holy uncomfortableness.
Yeah. I mean, I think extraordinary times like we are in call for extraordinary levels of protest. And if
Hmm.
you've got a pastor who is not just working for ICE, but he's in charge of
Yeah.
enforcement for Minnesota and multiple states around there, and
Hmm.
he is a ostensibly minister of the gospel, that dude does not understand the life
He doesn't
and
understand the
ministry
assignment.
and teachings of Jesus Christ, because Jesus was under an empire. And yeah, we're supposed to love our neighbors, but they called them and rebuked them,
Yeah.
that church. And when we get to the a truncated fundamentalist fuckwittery later, we'll see just what kind of church that was.
Well, and
when I get to that.
not only I would say that there is biblical context for what they did.
Mm-hmm.
There are many instances in the Old Testament of prophets showing up and giving these people what for. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And then
Right.
Jesus called them out in the New Testament. The scripture says in Acts 17:24 that God does not dwell in temples made with hands. And also, depending on how you look at it, Proverbs 24:11 says, rescue those being led away to death. There's a lot of scriptures that you could align with the church calling out the church. Basically, this was the church calling out the church.
Right.
Most of those folks that showed up, if not all of the folks that showed up for the press, are Christians. So this is the church calling out the church. J.D. Vance, our so-called vice president, he blamed local leaders for violence that's tied to the federal immigration enforcement in Minneapolis, and completely glossing over the public safety concerns and what the context for these protests and outrage is, as in these ICE agents violating the law, abusing the community, oppressing people's rights to peacefully protest and exercise their First Amendment rights. So just not even acknowledging that that's happening at all, which, what's her name? Noam, she doesn't acknowledge that they're doing that either. But so he's willfully dismissing the voices and people's right to do what ICE is trying to crack down on. And what's so crazy to me is you got Trump that's speaking out and making threats and bravado against Iran for cracking down on protesters. And then but you're doing it right here too.
Right.
You're going to send our troops and our money and our ships and our whatever, drones, I don't know what he's talking, over there to protect protesters while you oppress and violate protesters' rights here. It make sense, you know?
Right. Yeah, it don't. The hypocrisy is off the charts. And
amen, Judy.
The hypocrisy from the MAGA Christians is off the charts too. When they're, try that in my church. Lorenzo Sewell, you had him as
yes. Was that the one that did that crazy prayer, like, and then did a Bitcoin thing?
Yeah. Well, he said, money. Try that in my church and you'll meet Jesus sooner than you expect. Remind me where Jesus said it's okay to murder people.
Right. Lorenzo. That just lets you know the mindset, because they didn't harm anybody in that church.
No. And
it wasn't a violent protest. It was loud. It was uncomfortable. It interrupted the message to give the message, which was y'all are not about the gospel up in here.
Yeah.
But it was a lot of things. It wasn't violent. And speaking of what it wasn't, like you mentioned, they arrested Nikema Levy Armstrong. I think she's one of two folks who's been arrested so far. And they're saying that, what's her name came out? Bondi, Pam, came out talking about, we will not tolerate violence against our church. Where's the violence? Where's the violence at? They didn't break and enter. The doors was open. Nobody got hurt. They didn't tear up nothing. Let's put what happened in that church up against what happened on January the 6th.
Or what happened in Chicago and other places where Christian clergy were getting beat up and shot with pepper spray and non-lethal rounds and all that kind of stuff. Where was the MAGA Christian outrage about Christian pastors standing up and using their witness as ministers of the gospel against the oppressive ICE regime tactics? No, there wasn't any. What they did was they said that those were paid agitators and paid activists who were there. Or when Marianne Buddy,
agitators, it has been revealed and on video that ICE has mixed in agitators in the crowd.
That's par for the course. They did that after, in Minnesota after George Floyd was murdered. They had white supremacists going around breaking shit and starting fires and then going, look at these Black Lives Matter activists who are causing riots.
They had
And
it's
there were
documented.
videos
The
of
guy was
white
like,
dudes
"I'm one of
going
you
around.
guys. I'm one of you guys." They picked him up. ICE picked him up. So they literally had plainclothes people mixed in the crowd to agitate, so
Right.
that they could come in and do violence.
Yeah. Well, from a theological standpoint, against Nakima Levy Armstrong, the the passage that I want to read is, where'd it go? Exodus 23, 1 through 3. You shall not spread a false report. You shall not join hands with the wicked to act as a malicious witness. You shall not follow a majority in wrongdoing when you bear witness in a lawsuit. And you shall not side with the majority so as to pervert justice. And that's exactly what these clowns are doing.
That's a good. You read that again for the people in the back. I think you need to read that one more again. Read that again.
Oh,
What you
oh,
shall
I
not
just
be doing. What you ain't got no business doing.
hold on. Let me see if I can find it now. I lost it.
I think you said Exodus 23.
Yeah, you shall not spread a false report. That's all Christy Nome and
Every
Bovino
day.
and
And Levitt.
Caroline Levitt do. You shall not join hands with the wicked to act as a malicious witness. You shall not follow a majority in wrongdoing when you bear witness in a lawsuit. You shall not side with the majority so as to pervert justice. And we've already seen how many of these ICE lawsuits have been overturned when they've tried to get people arrested and convicted for things that they didn't do.
Yeah, and right now they're trying to they you got murderers that get bond. They're trying to deny Nakima Levy Armstrong bond because apparently they're so violent and they're such a danger to the community that they shouldn't be out on bond.
Yeah, she's a
But a
civil rights
rapist,
attorney.
a child molester, a murderer can get bond, but not someone who peacefully protested inside of a church.
Yeah.
Didn't tear up nothing, didn't threaten a life, didn't take a life, didn't damage property. But apparently she's too dangerous to be on the streets.
Yeah.
Come on, get the fuck out of here with the bullshit.
She's an attorney, a former law professor, and she used to preach at Covenant Church every other month. Yeah, but she's an African American woman, so
yeah,
clearly,
you already know how that goes. We
clearly she's a big problem,
especially against African American women.
Oh yeah,
he hates us the most. Yes,
oh,
but and then on top of this stupid ass White House and this liar in chief, they posted a AI doctored photo of Nakima, Ms. Armstrong, showing that she was crying during her arrest. She was not crying. Her attorney said that is a doctored, altered image. She was not crying at all. And the scriptures say you shall not bear false witness. Okay. Right. And these motherfuckers are lying from the highest office in the land. What need did you even have to do that? What need would you have to do that? You can
they probably trying to embarrass her.
You gotta exaggerate, you gotta embellish. His whole life is an embellishment.
Well, remember when they did the doctored photos of Kilmar Abrego Garcia's hands with the terrible Photoshop
of it down. It says MS-13. They're trying to tell him.
And they showed the pictures, and it was like, you can, I mean, I can't even really use Photoshop, but I could tell that shit was doctored, right? That just speaks to the kakistocracy effect, for one, and also the fact that they know that they're full of shit, so they have to gin up stuff. They have
to embellish it. They have
to. And lie and embellish to try to make it seem like it's worse than it is. And as has been reported elsewhere, there are a lot of undocumented immigrants in Texas.
Oh, all over this place. They need to go to the communities, but they ain't
going to Texas. They're going to Minnesota because they don't like Tim Walz, and they don't like Minnesota's very functioning democratic form of government and the social programs that they have to help their people. That's why they're going there. And also they hate people from the continent of Africa, regardless of country, except for that one at the very bottom,
where there's some Dutch
where there's some white people.
Yeah,
South Africa. They love them some white South Africans, but
Oh
everybody
yeah,
else,
that are being killed through. They ain't said no more about it. Is the genocide stop? When the genocide stop? Dylan, do you know? Remember them
I
African angels and from South American Africa came, and maybe Paula
yeah,
White
maybe Paula
sent them
White came
out
got them angels to South Africa
to
to stop
stop the genocide. Yeah, I don't
the,
know.
the white genocide. These,
It's crazy. It's crazy, but we are seeing that, and I think you did a good news last week before last. We are seeing that more faith leaders are stepping into
yeah,
these. They're coming from all over. They're traveling or they're being active in their own communities. Are literally stepping in the line of fire for these people that are being oppressed and are being harassed and are being even killed, so that's some good news that a lot of these faith leaders are on fire about
hmm
this, and they're not sitting on their hands
yeah.
in a lot of these places. So that's some good news. In religious news, there's some religious things going on. How about, did you know that Florida prisons banned the Hindu holy text? Did you know about that?
Oh, the ACLU is going to be all over that like white on rice.
Yeah, I'm going to drop the link so y'all can read it yourself. But the Florida Department of Corrections ban on the Bhagavad Gita, as it is, which is the Hindu sacred text, has left the inmates unable to obtain the book. And Hare Krishna organization is preparing a lawsuit to restore their religious rights. So why? I don't know what the reasoning is. But if you ban one religious text, you got to ban them all.
That's
If you
right.
allow one religious text, you got to allow them all. How did you even come up with the idea just to ban the Bhagavad? Why? What, I don't know what the logic, I
Oh,
probably should even try to understand the logic, but
I bet some MAGA Florida Christian probably thinks it's a demonic text and therefore it shouldn't be in there. But the First Amendment guarantees the right to freedom of religion. It does not guarantee the right to be a Christian only. It guarantees the right for anyone to practice their religion. And those rights don't end when you're in prison.
no.
Could you imagine if one of the Democratic governors, say of New York or California or wherever, suddenly said no more Bibles in prison?
Oh my God. They would burn the state down.
There, it would be seismic. They would lose
They
their
would
ever loving
burn it.
mind.
This man would need security all year round because so-called Christians would be trying to literally kill him.
Yeah, I mean, and look, you don't have to read the Bhagavad Gita if you don't want to.
It's just available.
Yeah,
it's like all this shit that they're doing with these books. Like no one's forcing your child to go. That father that wants the school to police what their children read. No one's forcing your child to go into the library and read anything.
Right.
It's just in the library. It's crazy. It's like I don't even want them to see that. Well, then keep them at home, then clown.
Yeah, to homeschool your kids if you don't want to.
Or send them to a Christian school and pay for it. Whatever the case, or a voucher or whatever the fuck. No one's responsible for parenting your children. No one's responsible for making sure their moral compass is straight. That's your job. That's your job. And if you're failing, you don't try to push that off on somebody else. It's nobody's responsibility to give your child an education about their God, their faith, their morality, or anything else. That's your job. And it's certainly not their job to shield your child from everything in the world that they're going to fucking see when they get grown anyways.
Yeah.
That's also your job.
Any decent American should be outraged by the state of Florida trying to ban a religious text.
The Christians should be outraged. It should be Christians that protest that say no, because what if someone came in and took the Bible from us?
Exactly.
Same difference. The Christians should be the loudest about this, about the 10 Commandments in the classrooms, all of it. But, when you're dealing with these warped ass, fake ass MAGA Christians, you don't know what you're going to get. It ain't like a box of chocolates. It's just a box of bullshit. You don't know what you're going to get.
Yeah. like the thing in Texas where in Tarrant County, I think it was in front of the courthouse now, they just erected a giant 10 Commandments.
Mm-hmm.
And Jesus had some pretty strong words to say about that kind of performative nonsense.
Yes, he did.
And
Yes, he did.
so did the prophet Amos. I hate and despise your festivals. I don't want to hear your gongs and your clanging cymbals, but
Mm-hmm.
let justice roll
Your
like water.
public repetitious performative prayers.
Yeah, and that's all that is. That's cheap faith. Look at how holy we are. We're putting a giant marble or
Whatever
statue
it
or
is.
whatever tablet of the Ten Commandments. Look how holy we are.
Right. And
Now compare that
how they living
to
behind closed doors.
Bob Hirschfeld saying clergy needs to be making their wills because we got to put ourselves between the regime and the vulnerable. We have to be
Mm-hmm.
prepared to die. Which one of those looks like doing it the way Jesus talked about, take up your cross, and which looks like Jesus saying, don't be praying on street corners just so you can be seen by men. You've had your reward.
You've
Go into
had
the
your
closet
reward.
and pray in secret. And that's in Matthew 6.
Yeah.
These, I'm, man, I'm running out of
So fed
patience.
up with it. We got to get to the fundamentalist fuckwittery, so we're gonna get to it. But real quick, the U.S. Catholic archbishops came out publicly, rebuked the U.S. federal administration's foreign policy decisions. So they did that publicly. They are calling for peace and to respect international law. So I don't know. Trump is getting it from all sides these days. I don't know if you've seen some of those speeches that were made in Davos this week, but it was some pretty
Oh
sharp
man,
words. And then Trump had to come there and sound like a fucking idiot, calling Greenland Iceland at least 4 times. Anyways, that's the guy we got in. That's the guy we got in the White House. That doesn't know the difference between Iceland and Greenland, and he thinks he ought to be able to buy it like a piece of real estate or in a deal. He'd making a deal. But like one of the commentators on one of these episodes, I can't remember her name. She calls him taco tits. Yeah, he had to take that back.
right. I mean, they just went back to the original deal, apparently, that's been in place since 1951 or whatever.
Yeah, the NATO, and then we're like, we don't know what he's talking about. We haven't talked to him.
I mean, one of the British papers had a big picture of Trump, and right underneath it said "prize idiot."
Yeah.
But to hear Trump say it, everybody loves me everywhere, all over the world. But no, the UK,
and we're the hottest.
Oh,
we're the hottest country. Like we're some half naked woman on Epstein Island. We're the hottest. Everybody's looking at us like we're the fucking fool of the planet right now.
Right. Yeah.
We're literally flushing our reputation, our economy, and everything down the drain.
Yeah.
Everything. Anyways, what you got for us for fundamentalist fuckwittery? What's going on in the world of religion and bullshit?
Well, this guy Joe Rigney, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this clown because I spent a lot of time on Jack Smith today. But Joe Rigney is one of the very first people to write a book saying that empathy is toxic. So keep that in mind. And this is what he had to say about the church protest. 11 years ago today, I helped plant City's Church. That's the church where the protest took place. I served as a pastor there for 8 years. This is a normal Baptist church. Well, folks, normal Baptist churches a lot of times preach slaveholder religion. They worship Jesus. They love each other. They seek the good of their neighbors. Now, he says they seek the good of their neighbors, and then in the very next little bit, he shows that they don't. And the left hates them and wants to shut them down because one of their pastors serves his country in law enforcement. ICE is not law enforcement.
No.
They are not law enforcement. Putting his life on the line to remove rapists and violent criminal illegal immigrants from our streets. They detained and moved a 5-year-old child from Minnesota to Texas without letting anybody know where that child was. His parents didn't know for 24 hours where the kid was. Now, how the fuck is a 5-year-old a criminal? The Democrats are the party of lawlessness, of cultural decay, social disorder, and death. It
Really?
is time, yeah. It is time for Christian boldness, for courage and clarity about Jesus and sin. And it's time for our governing officials to fulfill their mandate and become a terror to evil conduct. They do not bear the sword in vain. That's what our nation needs. Now, again, Joe Rigney was one of the originators of the idea of toxic empathy. And basically he thinks that anything that shows compassion to somebody that he doesn't
It's
like
not.
the LGBTQ community, is toxic empathy. And he said they need to bear the sword with righteousness. Remind me again what Jesus said about carrying a sword. What was it?
You live
Those
by the
who
sword,
live
you
by the
die.
sword die by the sword. And for every MAGA Christian that's like, well, Jesus said to carry the two swords. Well, if you read the whole context of that passage, it was so that the prophecy could be fulfilled according to Luke. So when they came for him in the garden to take him before Pilate, and spoiler alert from our caller last night, Jesus was executed as an enemy of the Roman state.
That's right.
So this clown Rigney, and I could have done a much deeper dive. There's a writer for Baptist News named Joe. Oh hell, his last Rick Pidcock. That's his name. He had a post about Joe Rigney, and he's like, the man has some really disturbing stuff in his background, and the way
Mhm.
he thinks about women, and clearly the way he thinks about immigrants. And for people who've listened to the show before, you've heard this probably a million times. The Bible is 100% unambiguous about how to treat immigrants.
Mhm.
And it is not to bear false witness against them by
Mhm.
calling them rapists and criminals, because again, Stephen Miller wants to deport people who are citizens who have gone through the naturalization process because they're not white.
That's exactly right.
And they're arresting people who are here legally, who have followed the process. And anybody who's followed that process knows how arduous it is
And expensive.
and expensive.
So one thing that I think about too with these folks that are getting deported in their immigration process, their legal immigration process,
Yeah,
is like that's a breach of contract. Y'all gonna give me back my money?
right.
I promise you, because that process is expensive. I know. My husband is Gambian. That process is expensive, thousands of dollars in years. Someone is going through it the right way, and you meet them at one of their court hearings and deport them. That's not just cruel. That is wicked. That's evil.
Yeah.
And
Well, they
also, it's a breach of contract. That is a contract. And I promise you, this country is going to pay billions. When Trump is out of office,
Oh yeah,
billions. We're going to have to set aside a reconciliation fund like South Africa or something like that. We're going to pay billions in fines and lawsuit settlements against all these, not just these folks, but the folks that they killed in them seas, talking about keeping drugs from coming here that wasn't even headed here.
hmm
All the 40 or however many people they killed in Venezuela,
the 80 something.
was it 80 something?
Yeah,
We're gonna pay billions and billions. And when I tell you the taxpayers, our grandchildren are gonna be, because there's gonna be lawsuits coming for decades because of what's happening in just this span of few years.
right. Well, Joe Rigney seemingly doesn't know that they halted citizenship ceremonies just before people became citizens and dragged them out. If
One
you
of
are
them
at the
sued
point,
and went to court and won. The judge
oh,
swore them in the court. He's like, so you mean to tell me that they stopped you in the middle? And he's like, yeah. He's like, well, get me the swearing thing and we're going to just finish it right now. Finished it in court in front of the attorney that was that was there to represent. the Trump administration. I was like, yes. I mean, that judge just understood the assignment.
Yeah. Well, Joe Rigney's is lumping all immigrants together, just like Donald Trump did back in 2015 when he first started running, saying that they're bringing the rapists and the criminals. They're not sending their best people.
Right.
That's the kind of clown that Joe Rigney is. And that's why he's this week's representative of fundamentalist fuckwittery. And just like I did last week, I want to balance that out with faith in action. And Dee, you just mentioned lots of clergy are stepping up.
Yeah.
And one of my seminary colleagues, who is she's the lead pastor at a local church. She posted this on Facebook last night. I am Minnesota bound. With the support of my congregation, I said yes to the call to put out to clergy everywhere. I'm going because it feels like the right thing to do, and it's something that I can do. And if we don't do the things that we can do, nothing will change, and things must change. I am literally dressed up in love. Tall boots from Pat, socks from Patty, Casio watch from John, a hand crocheted scarf from Jessica, a winter coat from Mom. My ordination stole is packed, as is the prayer square from Marianne and the cards to read on the journey, and one with a soft fabric heart tucked safely inside. I'm taking this love, all this love with me to spread around as I go. Freely as it was given to me, I will give it away. And that's my friend and former seminary colleague, Liz. And she is stepping up. And that is the polar opposite of that clown, Joe Rigney. And I applaud her courage. I applaud her willingness to travel from Pennsylvania to Minnesota, where it's supposed to be 20 below zero this week. They're talking about trees exploding.
Wow.
It's going to be so cold up there. And this is what she's choosing to do, because this is how she sees her calling as a Christian minister. And that's what the people who went into that church protesting were doing. Following their calling. Calling out the hypocrisy. Just like Jesus did in the synagogues when he said, "You charlatans, you den of vipers." So that's the faith in action this week. And it just so happens that it's somebody that I know and esteem and care about.
That's awesome. And we pray God's protection over her.
Absolutely.
As she goes forward with the work. She's also the polar opposite of that pastor that is leading up the regional operations of ICE and also heading a church. And he probably thinks he's doing holy work.
Oh, yeah.
While they're terrorizing children and students and families.
Yeah. I don't know what Bible that man's reading. But
is that our word on the street from your friend?
No, that was our faith. That was faith in action.
Faith in action. I love that. What's the word on the street?
Well, the word on the
street. Dillon Desimber.
Yeah, the word on the street this week comes from the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Now, in 2006, I went to a local library. I found an audiobook copy of the landmark speeches of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., edited by Claiborne Carson, a King scholar. And I listened to that, and it was a seminal experience. It was right after I had graduated with my bachelor's in history. And it was the first time I'd ever heard the speech "Beyond Vietnam, a Time to Break the Silence," which in my opinion is King's most important, most intersectional speech, and it's probably the one that got him killed. And I have on many occasions on the holiday that bears his name listened to that speech. And I did it again on Monday. So I want to read a couple of excerpts from that speech. The speech is like 55 minutes long. Find it. It's incredible. I wept on Monday when I listened to it, because things are, he made that speech in 1967. Here we are, nearly 55 years later, and we're still having to have these fucking conversations. So if I start crying right now, y'all know why. Um, but here we go, and bear with me. It's a chunk, right? Um, so Dr. King said, I am convinced that if we are to get on the right side of the world revolution, we as a nation must undergo a radical revolution of values. We must rapidly begin to shift from a thing oriented society to a person oriented society. When machines and computers, profit motives, and property rights are considered more important than people, the giant triplets of racism, materialism, and militarism are incapable of being conquered. A true revolution of values will soon cause us to question the fairness and justice of many of our. On the one hand, we are called to play the Good Samaritan on life's roadside, but that will only be an initial act. One day we must come to see that the whole Jericho Road must be transformed so that men and women will not constantly be beaten and robbed as they make their journey on life's highway. True compassion is more than flinging a coin to a beggar. It is not haphazard and superficial. It comes to see that an edifice which produces beggars needs restructuring. A true revolution of values will soon look uneasily on the glaring contrast of poverty and wealth. With righteous indignation, it will look across the seas and see individual capitalists of the West investing huge sums of money in Asia, Africa, and South America, only to take the profits out with no concern for the social betterment of those countries and say, this is not just. It will look at our alliance with the landed gentry of Latin America and say, this is not just. The Western arrogance of feeling that it has everything to teach others and nothing to learn from them is not just. A true revolution of values will lay hands on the world order and say of war, this way of settling differences is not just. This business of burning human beings with napalm, of filling our nation's homes with widows and orphans, of injecting poisonous drugs of hate into the veins of people normally humane, of sending men home from dark and bloody battlefields physically handicapped and psychologically deranged cannot be reconciled with wisdom, justice, and love. A nation that continues year after year to spend more money on military defense than on programs of social uplift is approaching spiritual death. This call for a worldwide fellowship that lifts neighborly concern beyond one's tribe, one's race, class, and nation is in reality a call for all embracing unconditional love of all men. This oft misunderstood and misinterpreted concept, so readily dismissed by the niches of the world as a weak and cowardly force, has now become an absolute necessity for the survival of man. When I speak of love, I am not speaking of some sentimental and weak response. I am speaking of that force which all the great religions have seen as the supreme unifying principle of life. Love is somehow the key that unlocks the door which leads to ultimate reality. This Hindu, Muslim, Christian, Jewish, Buddhist belief about ultimate reality is beautifully summed up in the first epistle of St. John. Let us love one another, for
Amen.
love is God. And everyone that loveth is born of God and knoweth God. He that loveth not knoweth not God, for God is love. If we love one another, God dwells within us, and love is perfected in us.
Mm,
The Reverend
that's
Dr. Martin Luther
powerful.
King. And that speech has, for a very long time, particularly that last part, influenced my politics and my worldview. I don't give two fucks about borders. I want
Mm,
every human being to have the same daily bread, clean water, shelter, meaningful work, community, time for family that I have. May it be.
amen. Maybe so. That's very powerful. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing your heart. As we just had celebrated Martin Luther King's birthday, and you know that clown in the White House did not mention it at all. If he
No,
could,
of course he didn't.
He did not post anything. He didn't say anything. If he could erase that from the history books of the United States and get rid of the monument in D.C., I promise you he would do it.
Oh, he would. He would.
And speaking of getting rid of monuments, they took down the exhibit in a national uh, park somewhere, I think in Philadelphia this week as well, that was showing the history of slavery or the, our advancement, civil rights advancement. They removed the entire exhibit. He's trying to erase history, but you
Oh,
can't. The people, the descendants and the benefactors and beneficiaries and the inheritance and those who died to give it to us remain. You cannot erase it. We are here. The fact that you and I are doing a show together is we're reaping the benefits of what our ancestors fought to do, to become, and to dream of. We are our ancestors' wildest dream, as they say, you and I.
right. Right.
So
Well,
we thank God for the life and legacy of MLK, and thank you for sharing that.
this is what they're doing right here. Where did it go?
Yes. Yeah.
That's what they're doing. They're trying to whitewash the history of people like Dr. King and Harriet Tubman and Malcolm X. And anybody who's interested in comparison and contrast between King and X, James Cone wrote a book called Malcolm, Martin, and America that I read in seminary. Check that out sometime.
Mm-hmm. Both means, methods, and motives of those men were absolutely necessary to the advancement of freedom in this country, period.
Mm-hmm.
Period.
Absolutely.
We cannot be quiet, and we cannot be still.
Right.
And we need to be still and be quiet. We still cannot sit down. So it is what it is, and it will be what it will be, and we will be back here next week, same time, same place, with you all on the God Squad. We'll be on Tell Me Everything with John Fugelsang on Wednesdays at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Sirius XM channel, Progress Radio channel 127. And we got some exciting things that we're working on. So hopefully we hope to announce those things. And one of those things is visit us online at thegodsquadpodcast.com. And there's links to everything that we're doing there. You can go see our shows. You can read the Tattooed Theologian blog and see all the wonderful stuff that Dillon Desimber Cruz, the Tattooed Theologian, is doing online. I'm not online so much, but I'm going to change that this year. I'm intentionally getting in the fray. I am working on a new segment that's going to be part of the God Squad podcast that I am very excited about. I'm not going to mention it today. I'm building it. And I'm going to be excited to be announcing that. And thank you, Dillon, for encouraging me to go forward with that. This is my partner in cause, not crime. This is my partner in purpose, Dillon Desimber Cruz. So I appreciate you. And I appreciate everybody for tuning in each week, listening to us, and taking time to lend us your ear. You do not owe us your time. You don't know us shit. So we're so glad you're here.
That's right. That's right.
And we hope you come back next week and share, like, share, subscribe, tag a friend, and tell a friend, and bring a friend next time you show up to the God Squad podcast. You got anything else to say to the people before we go, Reverend Dillon Desimber Cruz?
I just want, just reiterate, thank you. And if you feel compelled to share it, please do. It's a labor of love. And in this country now, we need every voice. We need every voice that we can, and every ear that has ears to hear. Let them hear.
That's right. All right. Good night, y'all. See y'all next week.
Peace.